Dorin Baniel, thank you for joining me. And 20-minute leaders, we're on October 31st right now. So we're about 24 days into the war. And we're capturing this moment in time as looking into the investment and VC ecosystem. As an investor yourself with now Night Dragon and previously with Glilod, you're very much immersed in the startup nation ecosystem, in the cybersecurity and AI landscape, the core and the beating heart of our industry. And so I'd love to capture some of your thoughts as to what you're observing now in the investment conversations that investors have with entrepreneurs, your conversations with entrepreneurs, how they're thinking. And we will, of course, be sharing this after the war. But I love that we're capturing this during the war so that we can really capture the real-time feelings and sentiments.
Let's do it. So first, thank you so much for having me. I'm more than happy to share a little bit about what I'm seeing and what we as a fund are seeing in Israel during this time. I want to start first with numbers for a second. If you just look at recent news, things are still moving in Israel in terms of investments and in terms of acquisitions. Just today, Dig Security was announced to be acquired by Palo Alto, for example. We've had many other acquisitions that have happened in the last few months, but this one in particular is very exciting because it's happening now. We had Island that just announced a mega round of investment a week ago or something, 2 weeks ago. So things are still moving. I think, for a while, the market has not been at its best, obviously. And we're all hoping to see the market return to higher levels by the end of this year. I think that the war maybe delayed it just by a little bit. But this doesn't have to do with just Israel. It's in general. In general, I think that we were very optimistic that it would rebound fully by the end of this year, and maybe it'll happen in Q1. Now, more so in terms of what I'm seeing right now during the war, post October 7th, for me, meetings with companies that I've already set, that are already happening, advanced conversations are still happening. I think that Israelis do what they do best, and that is be resilient and keep things moving, keep things going. Just, we were talking about business continuity, and I think this is the main topic of conversation. Whereas, a month ago, it's something that I wouldn't really ask, at least initially. Founders need to or have had to reassess who from their organization was impacted by October 7th, who had family that was murdered, that was kidnapped, who was impacted personally. And then the second question is who now is called to reserves? How many of our workforce is now going to be out? What I'm seeing is from the very small companies to the larger companies with hundreds and thousands of employees, the number is around 20% of the workforce has been called to reserves. Right now, I think we have a huge amount of reservists on duty. I'm not sure, and I don't know if I'm right on this or not, but it's going to be quite difficult for us to maintain having, those 400,000 reservists on duty. I don't know if the number will kind of be dynamic, that maybe in a month from now, if there's no further escalations, maybe the number will kind of go a little bit down because we're at overcapacity, but maybe not. It's really TBD. But right now, we're dealing with around 20% of the workforce has been called to reserve duty. Just today, I had a great face-to-face meeting with the CEO of a company we're evaluating, and he worked all day as the CEO of the company, and around 6 p.m., I asked him if he could just give me a quick call, and he said that he's on his way to the base, and he'll call me later. So what's happening is people are working double shifts. Like some of them that are not full-time on the ground are doing their day jobs and are doing their reservist duties. So it's something that's very, very admirable and very, inspiring to see all the Israelis, all of us come together and help and do whatever is needed to be done. for the country, for the safety of everyone. So business continuity continues to be kind of top of mind. Founders are needing to understand who from which team has been called to reservists. If let's say I spoke to another founder like yesterday, and he was saying that 60% of his IT department has been called. So at that point, and this was October 8th, so the day after, 60% of the IT team is called, meaning what do we do? So he looked at his business continuity plan that he already had, and he had a list of vendors that he was going to use, and he just chose one of the vendors and onboarded an outsourced vendor for IT. That's an example of something that, that he was doing to continue things as usual. Other things that I've heard of are founders that are, let's say your VPs are out, or some of the VPs are out. So you can create kind of smaller teams where you assign a specific leader within these teams to take decisions when the higher ups are out. But of course, continue to keep management in the loop, have syncs, document everything so that everyone stays aligned, and things like that. There's also within this business continuity plan, like worst case scenarios, right? So what happens if all the internet in Israel goes down? What do we do? So they have a solution for that. Or what happens if we need tomorrow to get all of our leaders out of Israel? So they have passports ready. They have relocation plans ready. What happens if the office gets bombed? Is all of our proprietary data in the cloud? Where is it? Is it stored? Is it safe? So these are questions that are being asked, that founders are asking themselves even before investors are asking them. And I think it's something that they've had prepared for a while, or at least they will now moving on.
Well, what has been your experience with international investors, their experience with what's happening? What is their sort of reaction to the space? Obviously, they're also asking questions. They have some thoughts of their own. But what has been, and I'm sure that they're also very concerned for the well-being of the founders and the teams. I have a lot of international U.S. and European investors in my company, and I've been astounded by the care, the empathy, and pretty much on a daily basis. And then there's still a need for business continuity and an expectation with the fiduciary duty to everybody that we try to keep things moving as much as possible. What has been your experience like with that?
Okay, so within NightDragon, everyone is extremely supportive. Dave, the CEO, my boss, he's been working with Israel for 25 years. He loves Israel. So it's been very, very heartwarming to see all of the support. I think generally speaking, and I've gotten, outreaches from tons and tons of different international investors, international CISOs, executives. Everyone is worried. Everyone cares. Everyone shows, is asking what can they do. People that are former military in the US are asking me if I can connect them with someone in 8200 so that they can try and help and do something beyond just, sending their well wishes. So it's been very heartwarming. I think when it comes to investments, like the general consensus is that perhaps in the next couple of weeks, some international players will kind of slow things down in Israel. Mm-hmm. We may see fewer deals happening just in the very short term because people are still kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. And I think that the more founders are resilient, the shorter this time period will be. I spoke to a CEO who was saying that his customers are surprised that he's still reaching out to them and still business as usual because they don't expect. So the more that, we remain resilient, the shorter the long-term impact will be, or the less the long-term impact will be, the shorter the TBD time will last, and the more things will just get back to normal when it comes to collaborations with the United States. I think the other point that I was going to say is that perhaps the bar for Israeli founders will be higher than the bar for American companies. I think in general it's higher, but now it's going to be even more.
But it again, just makes us work harder and be better. So, and then that's why we win at the end. I think that I want to articulate that and leave and take away from this conversation is this notion of, the fact that how quickly this integrates into our ability to continue operating business as usual. This sort of dance and tango between the care and the empathy and our duty for the safety of our families and neighbors and our country. At the same time, our duty for continuing and being and excelling as entrepreneurs and as leaders in different technological domains around the world. And we started this conversation with providing some anecdotes of all these amazing things are still happening even over the last few weeks, from fundraising to acquisitions. And the sentiment that I've been gathering as well is that pretty much, you were mentioning the different questions that every CEO is now asking. And those are not questions that I think 99% of CEOs around the world need to ask. And at the same time, there's certainly continuity with almost everybody. And I think that if anything, it just makes this ecosystem stronger in all these adversities.
I 100% agree. I think that, this is a great opportunity to double down, whether it's founders doubling down or investors doubling down on Israel. So any company that right now gets funding, and I'm not saying it's going to be so rare, I'm just saying that it speaks volumes. If you're continuing to get funding, continuing as usual, and it also speaks volume for investors that are doubling down on Israel during this time when Israel needs them the most. So it's not the time to abandon deals that you were already in progress with. It's the time to double down on them. And
appreciate that at the end, it's a long journey. It's all about resiliency. And here is an opportunity for investors to see how founders and entrepreneurs fare in some of the most difficult adversities. And we all know that building these startups is a roller coaster ride. And I can't think of many more situations that are harder than a war breaking out. And a founder that is able to maintain motivation, excellence in business operations during this time is probably a founder that any international investor should want to back. And so I think this is more than anything going to be a testament for how strong we are. And Dorin, I really want to thank you for the time and the energy. And I love how we're capturing this 24 days into the war. We're just, hopefully not too far away from the end of it, but who knows? And it's been a pleasure. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I will end by saying that, security and cyber solutions are Israel's bread and butter, right? That's what we're great at. We're great at a lot of things. Security is definitely one of them. And if anything, this war is given an opportunity for new technologies to be created, for things that were operational to now be used. It's creating a lot of need for the fight against misinformation and the fight against phishing hacks and all these things, because we're not just fighting this physical war, we're also fighting a psychological war and a cyber war. And all of these things just give opportunity for us to continue what we do
100%.
best.
100%. Couldn't say it better. Thank you so much, Dorin.